In ancient Greece, during the Eleusinian Mysteries, sacred rites dedicated to Demeter and Persephone incorporated psychoactive substances as part of their spiritual practices. These ceremonies, involving plants and mushrooms containing compounds like psilocybin, were deeply woven into the fabric of Greek religious life, used as tools for achieving transcendent states and spiritual revelations. The Apostle Paul, writing to the Galatian Greeks in what is now modern Turkey, directly addressed these practices. His use of the term pharmakia, from which we get our modern word pharmacy, in Galatians was particularly significant. This word, primarily meaning dealing in poison or drug use, has been translated in the King James English as sorcery, and was explicitly listed among the works of the flesh that would prevent people from inheriting God's kingdom. Paul's choice of this specific term was no coincidence, as he was writing to a Greek audience familiar with these practices. The biblical narrative consistently portrays sorcery and associated drug use as attempts to bypass direct communication with God. This is evidenced in multiple biblical accounts from Exodus 7:11 to Isaiah 19:3, as well as the stories of Babylon under Nebuchadnezzar. The strong condemnation of sorcery in Deuteronomy, describing such practices as an abomination to the Lord, further emphasized this point. Modern research by neuroscientists like Sharon Durek suggests that the brain functions more as a receiver than an originator of thought. This scientific perspective adds fascinating context to the biblical emphasis on protecting one's mind and, quote, seeking God's face. What appears in ancient texts as spiritual guidance aligns with contemporary understanding of consciousness, the mind as a gateway into our temple. While the Greeks sought divine connection through substance-induced altered states, Paul and the biblical tradition advocated for a direct, unmediated relationship with God, viewing the human mind as a sacred receiver that should remain unaltered for optimal divine communication. Curious that we are told all throughout the scriptures to dwell on God and to seek His face constantly. Some see this as nothing more than trite motivation, but it seems that in light of recent research on NDEs, remote viewing, and UAPs, that this might be in fact a means of establishing a connection to the divine, and protecting our brain, a gateway into our temple, should be done at all costs.